Good evening, everyone. Hello everyone and welcome to another round of the season here with Invictus Racing League. We're at round 9 of the championship for the Realistic Performance League down on the strip in Las Vegas, the latest addition to the Formula One calendar, first debuting later on this month for the following rounds of the championship. I'm Jack TM53, your commentator as always this season for the Realistic Performance League, and I'm delighted to say that joining me this evening, and it's pleasure and a privilege to have you back, it's Jordan, aka JPH99. Good to see you, friend. How you doing?
Yeah, good evening everyone. It's been all good here. It's going to be an interesting one with a brand new circuit for everyone to learn this week. I mean, luckily all the drivers have done equal performance, so they're going to have a little bit of practice at least going into tonight.
Absolutely. So the drivers will have experienced that already through tiers 1 to 4. You can go and check that out at the previous streams that are right here live now on YouTube that you can go and have a look at. But we're concentrating on the Realistic Performance, where, Jordan, what do you make of the cars around here? Do you think there's going to be noticeable differences between, let's say, the runaway championship leader, the Red Bulls, compared to the AlphaTauris? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the AlphaTauris are always going to be a bit slower. I have heard rumours of the Haas that Ginger's in is potentially slow on the straights, or at least slower than most of its competitors, so that might play a factor. But if it's got a slightly more downforce than those around it, that could play a factor in as well due to the circuit's slippy nature. But I think with the way the cars have been allocated this week, I think we should hopefully be in for quite a tight Grand Prix. But we'll just have to wait and see when the lights go out.
That we do. And just to look through, whilst we're waiting for the race to get underway shortly, which I'm hoping that Jordan will run through the starting grid, just to give you the championship standings up to date as well, which is glad to see this week. We have Merck leading the way. He's got a bit of an advantage now on 204 points. He's got 5 wins to his name, and Merck once again in that AlphaTauri. You've got Ryan in second place on 177, so it's looking like a bit of a two-way fight at the moment. Owen is further back on 136. Cameron is fourth on 133. And then in fifth, we have MDJ on 127. There's a big scrap going on for third place. Very tight between all of those guys. In terms of the constructors battle, we have Acela leading the way for Williams. That's on 328 points. That is Mercked. And of course, that is SFR Martin in those cars. AGS a second, which is obviously going to be Ryan and MDJ on 278. Bottom gear of Owen and Cameron are on 269. Then you've got Fast Cats and Joe's Lost Sandwich, fourth and fifth on 191 and 152 points respectively. So that is where we're at ahead of the sprint tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of starting grid at the moment, there was due to be 17 on the grid. Looks like we're missing a couple, one of them being Scotty. Unfortunately, he's being impacted by those storms up in Scotland at the moment. But Martin will start on pole with Atsu second, Cameron Searle third with Nitrocash fourth, Sir Spud in fifth with Kent sixth, Ginger Tiger seventh, Owen in eighth, MDJ ninth, Ryan in 10th, Merck 11th, Keza alongside in 12th, Phantom 13th, Simon 14th, Joe 15th, ARL 16th. Obviously one of those drivers is not here, judging by the numbers there, but that is the grid order.
So we've got just a few minutes before we get live and underway. I just want to have a huge mention to our partners for this season. Of course, you've got Grid Finder, where you can go and explore loads of different leagues and loads of different categories and get racing games that you can go and explore for those that are particularly keen on joining in an F1. You can go and look for some F1 leagues, but realistically you want to come and race with Invictus. That is why you're watching right now. Come and join us. You can go and check out the Discord, really lovely community for you to get involved in. As well as that, checking out the website and our social medias here with Invictus. I also want to give a shout out to Venturi Studios as well for creating those wonderful graphics that you see as part of the house style we have here at Invictus, creating those dreams and turning them into reality. That's exactly what it's all about, and I'd certainly encourage you all to go and explore the processes that they have to go through to create the graphics to make them look so good. So definitely tune in And check out Grid Finder and Venturi Studio. Great to have them on board. In terms of that starting grid, though, Jordan, what are you thinking today? I mean, what would the strategy be in the sprint if you're starting middle of the pack? Are you just aiming to get a top 5 finish, or are you just maybe trying to take a chance where you can?
I think it depends in terms of what your situation is. For the likes of, you say, like Sir Spud potentially, well, he is getting quicker this season on the game. However, I think he still has that sort of thought pattern that he might not get those points. So maybe trying to go for a top 8 in the sprint just to get those few extra points on top of what he can get in the feature may be the way. But I'm expecting most of them to either be on the softs. To be honest, the soft can do 9 laps.
You can do.
I believe it's 9 laps around here for sprint. But they can do 9 laps. I mean, they will be on the edge of their life cycle, but they can do it. It just depends if we get any safety cars, because you get a safety car in this, softs are definitely the way forward.
Well, that's really important as well for those that are watching. Thank you for commenting, those that are so far in the live chat. Great to see all of you. But that is something that Jordan's just touched upon there. The rear tyres are very limiting around this circuit. It's obviously a lot of emphasis on traction out of the slower corners. So the drivers have to have a setup that is really good at getting on the power quickly enough to take advantage of the straights, building up a better top speed. But the problem is that the controversy with, well, not the controversy, but rather the issues that they're going to face is the tyre wear. And what we've seen, Jordan, so far this season, in this track anyway, this week, is tyres going off exceptionally quickly.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few drivers saying the tyres go off quickly. Others have said, I mean, personally myself, I didn't find them go off that quickly. But when they do go off, the cliff is massive. It's not just a small cliff on this circuit. The car will start to move around a lot more than you expect. And I will point out, obviously, with the potential safety cars, I will just say on that, every single race this week has had a safety car. So technically, there's a 100% chance of safety cars going on tonight.
So will the Realistic Performance League make it 5 out of 5 in terms of the races that have gone on? I'm curious to see how this works out. I feel like Vegas is a circuit where, as we saw in Tier 4 on Monday, that there can be a lot of race winners near the front of the field, but it perhaps ends up being someone completely new. And drivers who you're looking at, like Ryan as being a prime example, second in the championship, he's not had a feature race victory this season. You know, he's one of those drivers who's been knocking on the door. This could be his chance. There's a few others out there. I know Owen wants to try and fight back and, you know, wants to encapsulate the performances he had at the start of the season. So I think it's very open tonight.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's the nice thing with the new circuit, especially as well, where everyone's having to learn it. It does close that gap up quite a lot, and it's something that we saw last night in Tier 1. The Aston Martins, I think we're going to also have a new session because the
looks
grid
like
is
it.
incorrect. So we're going to have a slight delay on that one.
So whilst we get everything all lined up and sorted, we'll just have a quick run through in terms of this track. Obviously brand new for this season. I mean, the 5 lights are coming up on my screen, and you lot can see that as well. And as you can see, there's a lot of people exiting in the lobby. But as we're saying, it's a new track for this year, 2023. 16 corners featured on the circuit. I know that Jordan is fully aware of the different names and areas of what the track is called, and I'll let Jordan run through that in a moment. I'm just looking at the comment that Lee's put in, actually. It's just made me have a chuckle. But designed by Herman Tilke, another one of his is designed in terms of a city circuit, which seems to be bringing up quite a lot of more city-based circuits over the last few years. In terms of the merits of the championship, Jordan, I know we're waiting for the lobby to start, so it's good to have a chat about this thing. Do you think that more circuits more street circuits is a good thing, or would you like to see more of a maybe even going back to some more classic tracks? What do you think?
Personally, I prefer the classic tracks. I don't particularly like street circuits. I mean, you know my thoughts on street circuits. I don't particularly like them because there's no, in my opinion, some of the layouts are really good. I really like the Las Vegas layout. I do. It's a challenging circuit, and I like that. However, there's nothing in the circuit, in my opinion, that really differentiates from anything. So you're constantly looking for breakpoints, and it's so hard to pick one where you're going to pick it every single time. So, in my opinion, I think we need to go back to more classic circuits, and I actually prefer it if it was like the likes of Suzuka and that, where there's not really any runoff. If you make a mistake or you run wide, you're on grass. You're definitely going to be losing time or spinning the car. So you do get punished for it.
Yeah, yeah, I do agree with that sentiment. I'm of the same ilk of that. The classic circuits. You're looking at, Zandvoort being introduced. I know people have various opinions on Zandvoort, but it is an old school circuit. It is very limited runoff, and I prefer that in a track. I can understand the appeal of going to citywide circuits because it brings more revenue in terms of the local community and the city there. It also does bring in. It's also a little bit cheaper in terms of transport, which I can understand. But I look at circuits, street circuits in particular, that have been introduced, and I think we're missing on Istanbul, which came back in 2020. A wonderful circuit. Admittedly, very difficult to continue racing out there because it's not really a permanent circuit anymore. Facility, it's kind of half used, half not, and the audience and the spectators, they don't get as much as they would like, which is why it's not really viable anymore. But I would like to see more classic circuits maybe adapted to return, having that sort of maximum on the limit edge. I feel that Vegas is similar to that of Jordan, that it is a challenging circuit. We raced around here on Tier 4 earlier this week, and it's not an easy circuit by any account. It's very difficult. There's lots of corners that can catch you out. However, I do feel that, as Jordan was saying, there are points on the track where you're consistently looking for a braking zone. It can be very, very difficult to navigate. I'm thinking turn 12, the long left-hander that feeds into the back straight. That's a corner that's very, very difficult to feature in terms of the braking zone. Trying to find that one. I also look towards maybe turn 5 is quite a difficult corner to navigate. That's the first of the DRS zones, the drag reduction zones. That's quite a tough corner to spot. Not so much just the braking zone, but maybe to turn in. And then obviously the most difficult corner on the circuit, in my opinion, turn 7, which is just 2 corners after turn 5, where there's a long left-hander. And again, I think it's really challenging, it's really engaging, but it's very, very difficult to spot a braking zone. But Jordan, I'm sure you'll agree with me on this because we've discussed about street circuits before. What if the F1 Championship, the official championship, were to bring more street circuits in? Would you be looking towards a track, let's say Singapore, which is probably the model standard of street circuits, in my opinion? Would you say something like, if Tilke were to design more, or we were to go to other cities in F1, would you say take some examples from that and try and create something very unique?
To a degree, yes. However, I think Singapore has sort of that distinct thing where it's all the track is basically 90 degrees or hairpins. There's very few kind of fast corners at the same time. I mean, you kind of look at maybe Montreal for a circuit, because technically that is technically classed as a street circuit, even though it's a purpose-built venue. In my opinion, that is probably one of the best of what it's categorized as, because it has chicanes, but not all of them are the same. Some are quick, some are slower. You've got the hairpins at the top and the bottom, and a massive long straight into the final chicane. In my opinion, that type of circuit is very enjoyable, and it's got features on it that make it slightly easier to learn, but also you're able to pick your braking points a lot more consistency because you have different features of the track allowing it to. So in my opinion, that is kind of like your model street circuit, because technically that's what it's classed as.
Yeah, it's true. It's a really good point, and that's the whole thing. Those that are watching and commenting, it's good to see you all, as I've repeated. But it's good to have different opinions and to discuss, how F1 can grow and how F1 can improve, not just the show but the sport as well. Obviously, there's a lot of discussion going on about the Andretti entry, which if we have time, I will come on to. Just to respond to a comment from Just looking here from Annex Lexa, RP does stand for realistic performance, just so you know. So you were spot on with your question. But potentially, just coming back to Formula One and the benefits and the wonderful sport that it is, and it, as always, goes through its peaks and troughs. Andretti is an 11th entrant. In my opinion, I'm all for more teams. I've always preferred having a grid of 22 or 24 cars because it gives young drivers a chance to be able to go and progress, maybe from Formula 2, maybe from IndyCar, maybe from another discipline, and they can go and drive and race, and they don't get limited. The last few years we've had 20 cars on the grid, and it's been tough for young drivers to come through. Not to say it's impossible. You look at your Max Verstappens, your Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, George Russell, Albon, etc. They've been able to make it, but there've been so many other drivers who've sort of been lost in that area that I think welcoming a new entrant onto the grid is a good thing. I could see why other teams would be upset about it because it's a bit of a loss of income for them. They have to share that out. George, what do you think? Because we have briefly in passing mentioned it and chatted about it, but what do you think about that?
I think it's brilliant. I think the more teams, the merrier. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd like to see a 12th team on the grid, possibly even a 13th, just to really expand it. But it's always going to be hard. I mean, the FIA can always go, yep, that's fine. They'll say yes to a lot of new entrants if they're allowing however many teams they're allowed to allow in a season. They'll always say yes because the FIA is always looking for that sort of competition to come through. Whereas, as you say, the teams are more concerned about the prize money element because it means less prize money. But the biggest thing with someone like Andretti is they're going to want American drive, at least one American driver.
Yeah.
But the problem they have is obviously a lot of the American drivers are in the likes of IndyCar, which currently the FIA still need to work something out to get them super license points, because we saw the drama with Colton Herta when AlphaTauri were interested in him, because the American side doesn't count towards FIA super license points. They didn't allow him in, even on an exception basis of doing a few races prior. So I think it's great to have another team in. Obviously, Andretti is a respected name in the sport, but I think they might find it hard if they want an American driver, unless they're looking at the drivers that are in F2 currently. I think they might find it hard to get that American driver. But it'll be interesting to see when they come in, especially with the new regulation, with the engines. And with obviously their partnership with GM and Cadillac, how they actually perform.
I think obviously as well because Liberty Media are such, they are an American company, of course, and they've got a lot of nationalistic pride running through, everything that they do. So they're going to look towards. That's why we have three, tracks on the calendar that are based in America, and that I can understand that in terms of the growing the sport in America. We have Logan Sargent on the grid at the moment, who is doing his best at the moment in what is a difficult situation for him at Williams. But when you think about it, for a country, and Jordan, you touched upon it there about there's been Colton Herta, who looks like probably the prime candidate to come over to Formula One, but the super license points are a big problem. But there've been so many drivers over the years, like really talented American drivers who just haven't cracked Formula One for whatever reason. I'm thinking of Eddie Cheever being one of the big examples. In the 80s, he never won a Grand Prix. Very good driver in his own right. But you had the last race winner was Mario Andretti in '78. Before him, you had Dan Gurney, and you also had a couple of other drivers just to factor in. Phil Hill being the only American Formula One champion. But I can't finish the rest of my point off, I don't believe, because we are just about to go racing in a few moments' time. I believe the grid is now sorted, so we will be underway. I'll tell you what, George, one last thing about current Formula One before we focus our attention right back on Invictus Racing League. Do you think in the next 3 years we'll have an F1 American driver on the grid?
I think we will. I think there is a couple in F2. There's one in particular, Jack Crawford. in the Red Bull system. I think he will probably come up in the next few years as a potential candidate. I like to think we would, but only time will tell on that one.
Well, that is that then. Just so you're aware, we've got two Formula One world champions that are American, Phil Hill and Mario Andretti, but Phil Hill being born in America, so I just want to classify that Mario Andretti, of course. He moved to America from a very young age, but he's American national, so we've got two champions there. Right then, we have ourselves a lobby, finally, we've got ourselves going. Good to see everybody in the comments. I also want to just make a quick point. Simon Palmer as always corresponds with me. It's always good to chat with Simon, and he said he's got some brand new pedals. He's got them fixed after the shenanigans of last week. He's a little bit concerned about terms of some quick drivers in quick cars, so he's going to try and do his best to try and compete against that. So we will see how they all go. There's been a lot of Phantom's left the session. Hopefully he can get back in. If not for the sprint, then certainly for the feature race, which is what we're hoping for, where all the big points are held. Jordan, you know the points, of course, from from first right away through to the last finisher.
I will do. Let me just quickly grab them up. There they are. So, drivers-wise, Merckx is currently in the lead on 204 points with Ryan on 177. Owen is third on 136 with Cameron Saw on 133. That is a change of position for those two. MDJ in fifth on 127. SFR Martin 124. Ginger Tiger has 116. Joe Hamster on 88. Nitric Ash on 75. 10th is Atsu on 72. I won't go down the whole list just in case we get going quickly. Teams-wise, we have Acela on 328 with AGS on 278. Bottom Gear has 269 with Fast Cats on 191 with Joe's Lost Sandwich 5th on 152. The remaining teams under that one.
There we go. There's a big fight going on for third place. Ryan and Merckx can still be dragged into that fight to become a fight for the championship, of course, but big fight going on from third through to seventh, so we'll look forward to see how those drivers get on. Some lots of narratives for tonight. Phantom has rejoined, thankfully, and we're just getting ourselves set up. One quick question, Jord. If you were to set up your car for realistic performance and you were in AlphaTauri, what would you do?
I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't really change anything from an equal performance setup, to be honest, because I don't really test that much. But with the AlphaTauri, you probably want to just chuck an extra couple of wings on it, just to try and get the car a little bit more stable, a little bit more turning ability on that first sector. But other than that, I probably wouldn't change too much.
Good. Well, there we go. That is the voice of the current championship leader in Tier 4. I'll always refer to you as that, Jordan, whilst you're at the top. But in any respect, the drivers now, they're just preparing themselves, getting themselves in the zone. They need to take stock of where their starting positions are and what moves they need to make early on. Excuse me. And the big thing is try not to get caught up in too much traffic. You know, if the drivers are in front of them, if the gaps start appearing, drivers can work together to try and pull away from the rest of the group. It's certainly possible around Vegas. But as I've seen in other races this season and this week, the pack in the Realistic Performance League tends to have this ability to sort of close up at later points in the race, depending on how the strategy works out, depending on how the tyres are performing. And as Jordan mentioned earlier, in terms of whether there's any safety cars, they have been a feature so far this week. So in every single race that we've done. So we are in a position where some of our drivers are going to have to adjust this on the fly.
Yeah, and that is a very difficult skill. I mean, very few tend to master on the fly sort of changes in strategy. So it'll be interesting to see how they cope with that. Especially around here, because the problem is that you've got the massive long straight down the strip, which isn't really straight, to be honest. Me and Bruce were having a conversation about this yesterday. It's not really straight either, especially when you're in a race. That's really your only chance to overtake. But over to you, Jack.
Here we go then, the 5 red lights are on for the sprint. And the race is live here in Vegas. It looks like a good start from the front row. And Atsu is going to be under pressure from Cameron into turn 1. He's going to look to the outside line. That is Atsu going round. I think he's clipped the wall on the inside line. He's going to drop all the way down the field. You've got Owen running side by side with MDJ for 6th place. They're on them soft compound tyres at the moment. Oh, that is a Ferrari darting all over the place, but it's actually just a case of a bit of lag going on. You've got Ginger Tiger and Cameron going together towards turn number 5, that is. That's one of the corners I mentioned before. They've all just about got through okay. Simon Palmer making a move for 12th place. Phantom's there, ARL, and Atsu just trying to get himself back on the pack. But Martin is putting the power down already. He's trying to get away.
Yeah, AC Kent and Sam Cameron are going side by side through the Sphere complex as they now come on to Sands Avenue. The 2 McLarens, they're not teammates, but they are driving the same car as Cameron sort of just about fending off Kent. Kent almost in the wall through Sands Avenue as he come up towards the mole for the first time.
Yeah, just following on board with Ryan. Oh, there's been a bit of contact, and that is Cameron round. He's facing the wrong way. Oh, and the other McLaren's lost their back end. He's in the wall. He's took the Mercedes with him of Joe, and that's a virtual safety car. That was a bit of a... I think the 2 McLarens got into each other, and then after that, Kent tried to put the power down on the exit of turn 12, and that just fed into a whole load of nonsense. That's a shame.
Yeah, it looked like going through the mole. Kent just tapped the back of Cameron, which sent Cameron round. And I think as Kent tried to get going again, he just spun the wheels. I think he also got a little tap from behind as the closing speed from the cars behind, which then sent him into the wall. And we now have a full-fledged safety car to clean up the debris.
Yeah, and that's prompting a lot of drivers to go into the pit lane. So Merck's piled in, Simon Palmer's in, Joe is, Phantom, the rest of the grid. A couple of drivers replacing front wings. That's ARL who's going to do that. I imagine Kent. In fact, Kent is letting Cameron through, which is an interesting decision to do under safety car. I'm sure that one will be looked at later. But I was just about to say, before the full safety car got called out, there was a 5-second gap between MDJ and Ryan and Merck, which would have been the top 5 pretty much fighting for overall honours, you would have imagined, because of the sprint race being short. But that's now going to bring it back together. And that's who's gone for the hard tyres, interestingly.
Yeah, I wonder if Atsu maybe went harder on the tyre strategy selection, because the problem is now for everyone that's made a pit stop, whilst it's not the end of the world because all the tyres have only done 1 lap, they do then, I don't know, I can't remember if those tyres then get returned after the sprint or whether they keep them for the race, which means they are going to have lap old tyres potentially to go on to in the feature race, which wouldn't be the ideal situation.
So we will wait to see in terms of what the next couple of laps are going to pan out like. So a bit of drama already. If you've just tuned in, safety car brought out because 2 McLarens got into each other, and then debris over the circuit caused a lot of damage. Well, potentially could have been a lot of damage. So that has brought out the Mercedes safety car, which is barreling towards turn 14, this long straight. We've got Martin in the lead, still on the medium tyre, compared to those behind him: Nitro, Ginger Tiger, Owen, MDJ. They're on the soft. Ryan didn't pit, so he's in 6th, but Merck did, and he's in 7th place, so he's got a new set of soft compound tyres on. Expect Merck to be very quick. So Spud's still in the top 8, which is good to see him up there, and then the rest of the group who got affected by the incident earlier: Simon Palmer, Joe round out your top 10, and everybody else is just trying to catch the pack at the minute.
And Merck coming into the pits.
Now that is an interesting decision. We're following him. I'm on board with him at the moment, so everyone can see. Now is Merck doing what I suspect he might be doing? Is he trying to not take too much out of the tyre? Is he replacing a front wing? He is. So Merck's got damage in that incident. He's going to have another set of soft tyres on. He's only done 1 lap on those others. Maybe Jordan earlier, it didn't change his front wing for him. Wonder if that's why he's come back in again. It's going to drop him. It's going to be very close with Kent, but he will emerge in 14th.
Yeah, I don't think Merck pitted when they came around for the first time. So I wonder.
It looked like he did to me.
I don't know.
Let's have a little look.
I can check.
Let's have a little look to see. Yeah, he did. He made 2 stops.
There you go. I mean, that can only mean that his wing damage wasn't significant enough for the game to recognise it needed changing. As I'm sure everyone has been a sort of victim of in the past.
So, we are still under safety car conditions. We have a couple of laps remaining, of course. I know that a couple of people asking the championship situation. We'll come back to that later on in the middle of the race. But to give you the upshot, Merck leads the way in the championship. Ryan is second. He's about 35 points behind. He's running in 6th currently. And then there's a huge fight for 3rd place involving a number of drivers, including Owen. I'm not speaking today. I tell you what, my English is not great today. I've been working all day. Owen is involved in that. You've got Cameron Searle, you have ARL, you've got MDJ involved in that fight. So there's quite a few people fighting over 3rd place, but the gaps are starting to appear a little bit in the championship fight. I imagine the safety car is going to get called in late, just like it did earlier this week. Let's see if it does.
Normally it gets called in before the Plaza complex.
Yeah.
So
that's late.
Very late instead, and I'll be amazed if that hasn't caught someone else. I mean,
it has. Phantom's gone off. Phantom's off in the background. I don't know if he's got any damage. Doesn't look like. I think he's just run deep. So we're riding on board of Nitro. Martin's going to be able to control this restart. Very late call from the race director, and Martin is going to wait for the last possible moment to try and surprise Nitro, which he's done. That's a great restart. That's really well done from Martin. He's going to be comfortable into turn 1, but I tell you who isn't comfortable. Ginger Tiger. You got Owen trying to go around the outside at turn 1. That's going to be hard to do, but fair play. They're almost going to go 3 wide into turn 3, and that sadly is 2 cars round and in the wall. It was never going to work. 3 into 1 just doesn't go, and sadly Owen and I think Ginger Tiger have got damage.
Yeah, I think, end plate missing on Ginger, and it doesn't look like any damage on Owen, but it could just be minor damage. And we've got another spinner here of Joe Hamster at Caesars, and Atsu's gone straight on, so I don't know if that's got anything to do with it.
2 separate incidents. I was following that in the camera, so Atsu just completely outbraked himself into turn 5 and went off the road, and then one of the McLarens turned round Joe, so he's been involved in 2 incidents already as Joe. He's not going to be pleased. At the front though, the front 3 have made a break for it. They're all together and they're 2 seconds clear of Ryan. Fair play to Spud, who's fighting side by side with Simon for 5th place, and that's Mert going past one of them. He'll probably get past Spud in a moment too, but those front 3 are pulling away already, and that's a big break already in this early part of the race.
Yeah, it's quite a critical thing to stay within DRS as Merck and Sir Spud going side by side down the strip towards the Plaza. I think Merck's going to have that one. Sir Spud probably knows this isn't really his fight. As Merck goes through as they head now down Harman Avenue and towards the Top Goal final corner at turn 17.
Really nice exit from Simon there. He's just looking to try and get past the Spud. He knows he's quicker than him at this point in the race. He looks to the inside line and he goes through. In fact, so Spud just... Well, I say that, but Simon got it all wrong on the brakes. Spud let him go, and Spud gets the position back. Now, Nitro's made a mistake somewhere, Jordan. He was right with the front 2, but he's now 1.3 behind. And I think at this point in the race, that's going to be hard for him to bridge back if these front 2 start working together.
Yeah, I think he just had a slight slide through the harbour section of turns 1 to 4. I think he turns 1 and 2. He maybe just had a slight slide. And it's allowed MDJ through. And obviously, when you start to slide there, because especially on the second part, because it's off camber, we've got a yellow safety car out.
Oh, another safety car has. Oh, I think Owen has hit the wall, and we've got another safety car. And yeah, Owen's got no front wing, so he ran deep at turn 5. And I said this before the race even started, that the problem with there's a few corners on this circuit, Jordan explained it really succinctly, that there's just some really difficult braking zones, but turn 5 nips up at the end, and you can't run too much speed through there. Otherwise, you end up in the wall, and that's exactly what's happened to Owen. So that brake that I was talking about for the front 2 has just going to be completely eradicated again. I mean, this is now another question. At this point in the race now, where we are, we're on lap 5. We know that the safety car is going to be out until typically lap 7, maybe lap 8 even. Or come in at the end of lap 7, come in at the end of lap 8. There's going to be no DRS, so it now comes down to pure setup in terms of who can just make the best break. If you were further down, would you make another pit stop for softs?
I think you've got to be careful. I say that as Sir Spud is coming into the pits now. I think to some degree you've got to be a little bit careful because the game has been known near the end of races to only have one lap of safety car. No matter where people are. So Spud's got a new front wing, so that's why he's in the pits. Joe Hampster, I suspect, is coming to change his front wing after he spun at Caesars. And there goes Owen.
Yep.
Interestingly, Joe on a set of hard tyres. Not the tyre I would have chosen.
No, but I think for Joe, he's probably running out of new tyres available to him in the sprint in terms of his allocation. So he's going to have to just try and ensure that he gets to the end of this race, lick his wounds, and go for it again in the main race that we're going to have coming up in just a few minutes' time. But fair play to SFR Martin, running in the lead of the race. He's not had to do much racing, but he nailed the first restart. He pulled away from nitro gas, didn't even have to think about the Ferrari approaching turn 1. But MDJ, we know he's quick. We know he's won races this season. He's on the soft tyres. They won't have put anywhere near as much wear on them compared to those that are running the mediums. Well, they will have done, but in terms of the expected life expectancy of those tyres, they're going to be pretty fresh. So the advantage for the softs towards the end of this race, Jordan, is going to be pretty paramount.
Yeah, and it was something we discussed earlier, wasn't it? It was the tyre selection and the fact if the safety car came out, the soft runners would become the advantageous ones. Obviously, if we'd run 9 green flag laps, as the Americans would say, it would be a very different story, but we haven't. We've had probably about 3.
So we've had 2 safety cars in the sprint. If you're just joining us, great to see you here with Invictus Racing League. Do give a like on the stream if you're enjoying the content. Really helps promote and support our growing Invictus Racing League community, not just across the members that we have, but also on YouTube and social media. It'd be really good if we get a bit more likes on the stream. It would be really, really wonderful if you could do that. Now, Joe's gone back into the pits, so I wonder how many pit stops. I wonder how many the most pit stops we've had tonight so far is. And he's gone for the soft tyres, so he's got a new fresh set of boots on. He should have enough time to catch the safety car. And obviously, normally we talk about, how many penalties each driver has. I think we're going to have to change it into how many pit stops each driver has. Merck's been in twice. Joe's been in 3 times. So Spud and Atsu's been in twice. Ginger Tiger's in 10th, but hasn't made a pit stop, which is quite curious, actually, how he's ended up down in 10th.
He had that spin.
Spin, yeah.
And I wonder if he just thought rather than... Maybe the damage isn't really affecting it too badly for him. Depends on the style. But obviously he feels he can still continue even with that. I think it's a broken front wing. I'm pretty certain he's missing an end plate.
Is he? Let's have a look, see if I've got a good camera angle here. So we're running towards turn 11 and 10. Turns 10 11. I couldn't quite see, actually, because he phased through Phantom, who's gone to a Ghost. Yes, he does have a broken front end plate. Front right, you can just see it there. But he's on the soft tyres, so I suppose if there's any tyre to be on with front wing damage around here, the softs you could probably just about get away with and not lose too much performance.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the grip level of those softs are quite high compared to any other tyre, so probably get away with it. But just a quick mention, obviously, MDJ up 7 places, but ARL, who has been hit and miss in terms of being able to race over the last few weeks, up 8 places in that Williams. He's done a mighty job of staying out of trouble, but the safety car is coming in a slightly earlier call this time, so a bit more time to get prepared.
Exactly. So the drivers will be getting themselves ready. There is no DRS for the rest of the Grand Prix. There is no more safety cars either. We've gone past that threshold for the game, and now it comes down to when does Martin drop the hammer and see if he can pull away from MDJ and not feel threatened into turn 1. Nitro Gash is lurking there as well. Don't forget Ryan and Merckx, and that is Martin pulling off already. He's absolutely nailed it. 2 restarts in a row. He's not going to have to worry at all about turn 1, but Ryan is, because Merck's going to look to the outside line, and he's through before we even get to the apex. Merckx up another spot, going for another race victory. But tell you something, up at the front, MDJ and SFR Martin side by side will run on board with Nitro Gash. It's MDJ in the lead of the race. That was a big move early on. Martin must have just got it a little bit wrong on the exit of turn 1 for that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I reckon Martin's probably run a little bit wide through the harbour corner, and the grip, that just shows the grip of the soft tyres going round the outside of the second part of harbour. Just going through the sphere complex. Now a bit of a slide there from ARL, as he's chasing after Simon, and Nitro getting sideways on the exit of the sphere complex, and that means Merckx up into 3rd place, now chasing after Martin for 2nd in this sprint race.
And everybody's worst nightmare, Merckx in 3rd place, is now joining the fight for the race victory. Nitro just darting out of there, nearly hitting the wall. So those 4 are going to be having a big fight to try and take this race victory, but battery management is going to be critical for this final lap after this one, because the drivers, they don't have DRS, so it's going to come down to tactics here. That's Cameron going past ARL for 7th place, just in the background. I'm going to skip back to him. Sadly, I can't skip through the drivers in a simpler way. He's on the inside at turn 14. That's a move done. And we're going to have one last lap, Jordan, and amazingly, who is that going through? That's Merckx. It's an AlphaTauri 1-2, and MDJ is going to be so miffed that he's got Merckx right with him.
Yeah, I mean, if he knows that Merckx pitted, then I think he'll understand the reasoning why. But for the final time and up towards Koval Lane, it's up towards Caesars as well. This very tricky right-hander. Simon's past Ryan now. As we head into Caesars, and Merckx right on the tail of MDJ. It's going to be a battle of ERS down the strip.
It's going to be a big battle, and it's going to be dependent on who gets
collision at Caesars.
That's Ginger Tiger out. That is such a shame. Turn 5 claims another victim. But this is it. We're on following the front 3. They've managed to pull away from Nitro. Actually, he's got a time penalty. That's impressive round here. But we are on the final lap, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this. Merckx trying to go and put himself in the mirrors of the AlphaTauri. But watch out for Martin. I've been watching his ERS management, and it's a little bit better than the 2 at the front. Merckx's going to be in the slipstream of the AlphaTauri. He's going to be using all the battery, as is MDJ. They're all using the power. They're going for it. And Merckx to the outside. Going through. He should be clean on through, and he is indeed. Martin's got a double toe, but he's not quite close enough. On the brakes then, into turn 14. It's all going to be about the exit here. You can overtake. It's the 2 AlphaTauris. Martin's a bit too far back, but I think it's going to be Merckx. He's just about clear enough, and it is Merckx who's going to take another victory here at Vegas in the sprint. Great drive and great tactics to pull that off. MDJ 2nd, Martin hanging on for 3rd, Nitro, Simon and Cameron and the rest all following in behind. Jordan, there was some chaos on that last lap. What happened?
I didn't catch the incident, but it looked like Kent had spun it or gone deep at the plaza corner. I wonder if Spud put it in the wall on the exit of the left-hander. I wonder if he just clipped too much curb going through turn 14, and that's what's maybe spun into the wall, but it's only guesswork, unfortunately.
Well, guesswork aside, one person who guessed it correctly, it was Merckx. Another win this season, and everybody must be getting fed up of it, but he's just showing how brilliant he's been so far this season. MDJ takes 2nd, Martin so close once again for the Williams driver this evening. Nitro Gash in 4th, Simon Palmer, Cameron, Ryan and ARL rounding out the top 8. Everybody else finished outside of, well, according to the timing tower we got here, Phantom, Spud and Ginger Tiger, but they're classified because they did over 90% of the race distance.
Yeah, and obviously, because we don't have the new sprint format in the game, that will set the grid for the feature. I mean, That's an interesting point of conversation in sort of the RP leagues here. When we get the next year's game, which will probably have the new sprint format, having maybe a short qualifying almost for the sprint race, and potentially the feature could make things interesting.
Yeah, maybe some one shots or something like that, maybe to spice up the grid, or excuse me, a different format like you've just suggested in terms of short qualifying. The reason why it's not in the game, for those that are curious, because it is a big omission, is that F1 only officially announced the sprint shootout and the new rules for qualifying regarding the sprint and the race in late February. And now obviously the game came out in June, so at that point trying to code in a brand new feature into a game within the development cycle of F1 23 was almost impossible for Codemasters to pull off. So here we are using the old system from 22. Of course, it'll be in for 24, there's no doubt about it. Phantom has rejoined. Praise be the phantoms that walk beneath his feet. Hopefully he can get in. But the point of this is that it is something for IRL, as you've mentioned, Jordan. It is something for them to think about. How are they going to set the grids? Are they going to do what they've done this year as is tradition, or are they going to do? I'd like to see do a one shot. I think that'd be quite cute. I think that'd be great to see.
I think what would be interesting would be to have a one shot for the sprint, but the sprint still decides for the feature almost.
Yeah.
Or either that, or just reverse the sprint for the feature. I mean, there's other things. I mean, you look at like maybe F2, for example. Obviously, they do a qualifying session, and I'm pretty certain for the sprint they reverse that grid for the sprint, but it still sets the grid for the feature race. So that could make things interesting as well. There's so many different possibilities that could be implemented in a game. It's just whether the facilities are there to do it.
That's very true. So Spud just saying he had a bit of a tap on the wall in that race in the last few laps, like you caught, Jordan. So that seems to be the case. Renz is saying that it's a hybrid between Long Beach, Singapore, Miami, and Jeddah, which in a sense I can appreciate that in terms of the way it's laid out. But this is the feature race. We've got a front row of MDJ and Merck, two drivers who've won numerous races in the Realistic Performance League. Do you think, Jordan, they're both Tier 1 drivers? Do you think they'll work together early on to blitz away from everybody else?
There's a chance, but the biggest thing for MDJ is to make sure he stays within the DRS of Merck in those first 2-3 laps. We saw yesterday that initially the two Aston Martins of Emir and Merck, which Emir's actually quicker than Merck on most occasions, they managed to get that gap, and I'll go to you because we're starting.
We'll come back to it then. We've got the 5 lights once again here at Vegas. And the race is live by the looks of it. There we go. The timing tower kicks in and we have a very bizarre looking timing tower. I think there's a bit of a glitch there, but it is Merck leading the way. It's MDJ in second place. You've got Martin trying to make a challenge on the inside. Martin running the medium compound tyres as opposed to everybody else. And Simon Palmer flying up through the field. He's running the soft. So a lot of different setups running so far. But Simon's on the inside, which will be for third place. And he takes that position away from there's a retirement. That's Atsu, and that's a safety car already.
Yeah, Atsu straight on into the wall at Caesars at turn 5. I don't know whether that was a little bit of a helping hand or whether it was just a potential lock-up. But I must say, the two Alfa Romeos of Owen and Ryan, some fantastic driving through the harbour complex. They went side by side through turns 1, 2, 3 and 4. But I believe Ryan was on the inside line, which meant that he didn't get a good run off the corner and actually allowed Nitrogash and the Ferrari to get past him up towards Caesars.
Yeah, very true. Thanks for that, George. We were watching other fights, but that was really well done by the two Alfa Romeos. Now, first time I've seen this, the timing tower has actually updated, so we've got a proper running field, so it's not Phantom at the front. He's further back, but we have the two AlphaTauris at the top. It's Simon Palmer, who's quite far back from the rest of the grid. But I wonder if there's just a little bit of a issue with the safety car timing screen for Palmer there. Then you got Martin behind him. You got Cameron, ARL, Owen, Nitrogash, Ryan, and Joe Hamster having a wiggle out of the final corner. And just looking through the position changes, Nitrogash has lost 4 places on the opening lap, so not a good start for him. And that is Phantom in the pit lane. Ginger Tiger's going in the pit lane. Everybody else who's gained places, they've only gained maximum of 2 spots, including Simon using those soft tyres to good effect. And ARL and Owen too, making up 2 places. So spun Ginger Tiger too. At the moment, oh, and everyone's really bunching up. They got that all wrong into the corner there. That could have been a nightmare.
Yeah, just update for the pit lane. Phantom and Ginger both taking new front wings. Phantom out on mediums, Ginger Tiger on soft tyres.
If you had to make a pit stop now, Jordan, compared to the drivers that are out there, if we look at Phantom and Ginger, do you think that they've done the right thing in terms of strategy, or would you try and maybe run the hard tyres for quite a little bit longer and then go for the softs at the end, or do you think that's the right call for now?
I think it depends where your mindset is, where your position is. I think if you're at the back and you know you're going to be at the back of the pack, I'd probably be tempted to switch to a two-stop here, being obviously mediums and softs to the end if you've got that tyre allocation available to you, just purely because you're going to have to try and make your way through this pack, which isn't going to be the easiest, especially if you get if you end up going the hards, there's a high chance you could lose that DRS train due to the grip through sector 1. So from that perspective, I think a two-stop here, if you're at the back, is probably worthwhile because everyone still has to make another stop.
There we go, a bit of strategy. We also had the strategy time come up on the graphic there at the bottom, the medium to the hard, a 1-stop. You can also do a 2-stop round here. So Vegas, in a positive way, Vegas is certainly promoting a lot of different strategies for the races this evening. Typically in the game, you can see quite a lot of 1-stop, straightforward strategies on the 50% races, but that isn't the case tonight, which is really good to see. So I'm sure that we look at the rainbow of tyres in our timing tower on the left-hand side. You can see the top 3 all running the different compounds of dry Pirelli black rubber there. Now, George, you made this point earlier about how important it is for MDJ on the hard compound tyres to keep up with Merckx. But you can see there quite clearly that Merckx on the quicker tyre. Simon Palmer behind him is on the quicker tyre. It will be a case for MDJ of just trying his utmost to stick with them and not get caught up in too many battles with Martin and Cameron Searle behind, even ARL to include in that.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Simon does get alongside MDJ, that MDJ actually just kind of doesn't fight it too much and sees if he can use Simon Palmer to stay on the back of Merckx, because in theory Simon should be quicker than Merckx on that compound. He is also in a faster car compared to Merckx, so I mean, I'm not going to say it's easy to keep up with Merckx because he is ridiculously fast, but yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if MDJ kind of works with Simon here to stay with with Merckx to keep that DRS, because the problem is now is that they're going to have to wait another 2 laps before it gets initiated.
So lots to play for here then for round 9 of the season of the Realistic Performance League at Invictus Racing League. Lots of potential intrigue about to happen. We know that there's a couple of drivers out there looking to do 2-stop strategies. Simon Palmer probably in the prime position to do that. He could do soft, medium, medium, soft, soft, medium, depending on whichever way around he wants to do it. ARL would feature in that list. Kent would feature in that list, unless somehow they were able to make the soft tyres last long enough to then jump onto the hards. We shall see in the coming laps, but that is what you'd expect at this moment in time from the strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to note as well, Owen's game is being a bit annoying to him, which is why he's actually lost places under the safety car. It's no fault of anyone. It's just Owen's game not quite playing ball.
That is a bit of a frustration for Owen. Let's hope he can get that sorted. He's been having some difficulties since that opening round at Monza. Let's hope he can fight back and get that good finishing record back for the bottom gear drivers. So we got Merckx leading the way. We have MDJ right in behind as well. Let's see if he makes a good launch. He does indeed. That's a good launch for Merckx. He's going to be in the mirrors as MDJ towards turn 1. You can see this as we ride on board. Now SFR Martin looking to the inside, but he can't quite make it because Cameron's also trying to do the same thing. He's got to look to the outside at turn 4. Good clean racing between these two. They've got a little bit of a jump on Nitrogash as well. He's a bit further back. And Cameron round the outside at turn 4. That's a good move. And now we get into the thick of it.
Yeah, Cameron obviously getting used to that pad. Nitrogash and Ryan up there. We're going side by side into Caesars. Owen gets past Joe Hamster through Caesars, which is good to see for Owen. He's obviously back to full pace through this.
Oh, he's lost it. Or was he been? I couldn't quite tell from my angle, but he's facing the wrong way. He's going to have to get going again. And he's going to have to try and get on with it as best as he can. Back at the front, Merck leads the way, but he's got MDJ tracking him strongly. Simon isn't far away, but Simon's got to be conscious of that gap. Look at it increasing. You know, he can get on the battery, he can use that down the main straight, but I guarantee the two Alpha Tauris, even though they're not teammates, they will want to try and drop the Alpine quickly because Cameron Searle's looking very quick at this moment in the race. He's right there with the Alpine.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cameron's showing a little bit of surprising pace here as we head into the Plaza complex. Because obviously he has been trying to get used to that pad on the controller, so very good progress from him. And it looks like Sir Spud has potentially gone round at the Plaza. Yes, he has.
Yeah, he has. He's facing the wrong way. He's got himself back in the right direction, so hopefully Spud can keep going. I'm sure he will. He's not the type to give up. Merck setting the fastest lap of the race, and not a surprise, really, to be honest, in terms of where we are at this opening stage of the race. We're only, would you believe, coming up to the 5th point of the race. Still another 4/5 to go. That's Ginger Tiger back in the pit lane. I wonder if he's got any damage. But Merck is just trying to show his form here, trying to pull away from MDJ, and Simon will be watching this thinking, I need to get past this AlphaTauri if I want a chance of getting maybe onto the podium, because I know Simon's been looking for that this season, and he would certainly want to get a podium to add to his collection.
Yeah, and the thing for Simon on those softs is, whilst they are going to be quicker, you need to kind of use them at the on these first couple of laps of the restart when everyone else's tyres are cold, because they're going to be quicker to heat up. Obviously, once the tyres are all heated up, it becomes harder for Simon to A, stick with the AlphaTauris, and B, then overtake them.
So that is word to the wise from Jordan there. We were looking at the terms of the gaps appearing a little bit further more, and it's a good shout from Jordan regarding Cameron. This is a really good display thus far from him. You know, he's on the controller compared to what he would be typically, but he's right there. Now that is Simon going deep into 14. This is a chance. He gets on the power just a touch early, did Cameron, but he knows he's got the speed advantage. He's looking quick at this point in the race, and Simon tried his best to defend. He couldn't do enough. Merck with a new fastest lap of the race. Simon's going to try and look to go around the inside. Maybe that's a double move between Cameron in the braking zone. Something to be questioned, I'm sure. But Cameron is in 3rd place, and the DRS is now enabled, and they've lost it compared to the front two.
Yeah, Joe and Kent side by side through the harbour section. Joe getting through into 9th place in the end. So Joe up into 9th. He's not going to be chasing after ARL's Nitrogash. Goes down the inside of Martin at Caesars.
Nice move from the Ferraris up into 5th place. Cameron and Simon nearly getting that wrong and running into the back of the McLaren. But it is Nitrogash in 5th place. He's got Martin and Ryan with him. Ryan's going to be looking to try and leapfrog the pair of them. He wants to try and consolidate 2nd in the championship, if not try and go for the lead of it if he can. It's going to be hard. You've got ARL there in 8th. You've got Joe Hamster and Kent in 10th. And then there's a bit of a gap back to Phantom and Owen, who's further back there in 12th place. The gap at the front, 6/10, but MDJ will have the DRS wide open. And that gap is going to shrink enormously because of how much... Look at this straight line speed here. He's going to go right up to the back of Merck. I don't think he'll go for it at turn 14. He doesn't. He slots in behind. And that's Simon up to 3rd. And that's Ryan past both of them, as I suspected, into 5th place. Big move for Ryan.
Yeah, that just shows you how important the DRS is down here, because it is a huge advantage If you haven't got any DRS, you're not going to be doing well. Martin into the pit lane. I'll stay on board and see what's going on.
Yeah, do let us know, Jordan, if he does decide to take another front wing. Meanwhile, Cameron and Simon fighting hard over third position. MDJ is still right under the rear wing of his on-track teammate in that of the Alpha Tower of Merckx. Still right there together. Cameron and Simon once again battling towards turn 5. And that is a little bit wide from Simon. But those tyres, they'll still have a few more laps left in them, but they won't have much beyond that. So he's got to just keep the pace and see if he can use the mediums or the hard tyre later on in this race to bring him back towards a podium result. It's not impossible, it's not out of the question yet, long way to go.
Yeah, Martin, a new front wing and hard tyres, so he'll probably be looking to go to the end of the race if it stays green for the duration.
So let's have this one key thing actually I wanted to look at. Martin is 30 seconds behind on lap number 7 at this point in the race. We'll keep an eye on that gap and see if he makes any gains on the drivers around him. If I just switch that over, you can see that currently that gap's up to 30 seconds. And Martin was running in the battle for the top 6 as Joe goes past, and that's also Simon Palmer going past Cameron for third place. But Nitro is 24 seconds in front of Martin. Let's see if that gap comes down over the next few laps and see whether the hard tyre is a good race tyre to be running on around here on a one-stop strategy.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because what was MDJ had a little slide through harbour on his hard tyres, but what was generally found was because of the game's simulation of the track rubbering up throughout the weekend, ARL in the pits, that's probably just a scheduled stop, I'd assume. Yes, it is onto hards. Because of the simulation of the track rubbering in, the hards did tend to be okay in the main race, or just generally the race for EP as well. So it could actually work out okay.
Big battle between Simon and Cameron. Those soft tyres are just starting to struggle, and Simon has lost a second in that sector alone compared to MDJ, and Cameron knows it. He wants to get on with this, but he's really struggling with Simon fighting so hard with him. He's going to break down through the gears into 4th and then back up as best he can, and Simon having a massive wiggle and then backed out of it, I think, actually in the midst of all of it. He didn't get DRS, so his strategy, if he did try and tactically gauge that, didn't quite go to plan. Is this going to be a change for the race lead? No, it isn't. MDJ stays behind.
Yeah, it's an interesting battle between Owen and between Simon and Cameron. I was just rewatching on your stream, and yeah, it's a bit weird. But the detection point just after the corner for the strip. So if Simon was trying to play DRS games, he didn't quite get that one right.
No, not particularly, but he's still keeping up. And the thing is, he needs to try and keep within DRS range. Now, he's got DRS on this lap for this corner towards turn 5, but I think those soft tyres are run and done at this point. I think he's going to struggle now, Simon, to try and get DRS again. He might be vulnerable to Ryan behind on this lap, because we know that these tyres, the Pirellis, tend to degrade very quickly around Vegas because of the heavy traction zones at this track. So the drivers are going to have to be really wary of how much time they're losing. And look, Simon's gap to Cameron is just going up corner by corner at the moment. I imagine he's going to be in the next lap or two, because Ryan is bearing down on him in the Alfa Romeo, but he's got Nitro keeping him honest, not too far behind.
Yeah, it's good to see. It's good to see different tier drivers battling with one another. That's what RP is really all about, is these different tier drivers getting to battle different people compared to their normal equal performance tiers. But MDJ, I wonder if MDJ is at the moment just following Merck, just getting that gap built up to Cameron, not taking too much out of his tyres here, because he is running the hards. He knows he's going to be overcutting Merck here. So ideally he wants to not take too much out of the tyre, so he's got some tyre left to try and do that overcut.
Yeah, I think he's following the same strategy as you've just said. That's Simon Palmer in the pits. But yeah, I definitely believe that's the case. And MDJ, this isn't a circuit where your tyres are going to be too badly affected running behind another driver, because there aren't really any fast corners, so to speak, apart from at turn 10 and 11. But they're not high load. Ooh, Mercked so close to the wall then at turn 5. That was mightily close. But MDJ will be running that gap as best he can. Now, I clicked back through momentarily. There's a yellow flag out there. I think Owen's had a spin at the exit of turn 4. So Owen, sadly, is race running from bad to worse. But I was just about to say, the gap between Nitrogash and Martin, 23 seconds. So the gap's come down by a couple of seconds. So Martin hasn't had DRS. Nitro has. Maybe pitting early might be the best strategy for those, who've already come in. That might be the optimum strategy at this point in the race.
Possibly. I mean, Martin did have DRS on the last lap as he overtook Spud, so that would have helped him. The key thing really is getting the hards up to temperature. Because those that first lap and a half, 2 laps, it feels like you're driving on ice. But once they're warmed up, you can start to trust them that little bit more. That
you can. So the front 2 running away with it once again.
And look at Nitrogash. He's on the back of Ryan.
I was just about to mention Nitrogash showing some really good form around Vegas, which is pleasing to see. He's had a bit of a rough season as Nitro in the Realistic Performance League, but credit where credit's due. He's keeping up right with Ryan, who's second in the championship, just showing and displaying the racecraft between different tiers in our leagues here at Invictus. It's great to see. Really lovely. And hopefully Nitro will have a chance at attacking Ryan. Not down towards turn 5. That won't happen. He's too far away. But on the approach to turn 14, he'll definitely have an opportunity. Martin's not far away from ARL in terms of the two Williamses together on track. And Owen and Ginger Tiger are very close together. But so far the gaps are, in this point of the race when the strategy has diverged a little bit, just fragmented a touch amongst the 14 drivers still running.
Yeah, which I think is pretty natural with the mistakes creeping in. I mean, me and Bruce were discussing last night. Vegas is basically a very quick version as Owen and Ginger Tiger fighting out through Caesars. Down towards the Sphere Complex they go. Ginger on the inside as they hit the brakes for this really Nadri chicane. And Ginger Tiger just about fending off the Alfa Romeo of Owen there.
And that's a change for the race lead. Whilst we were watching that, MDJ has put the hammer down. He's gone past Mercked. And now let's see if he's got any performance in those hard tyres. They can last for quite a few laps. And I'm sure that MDJ will be looking to try and run those for as long as he possibly can. And maybe, just maybe, try and run the softs at the end of the race. Mercked will certainly be able to keep up with MDJ. He's in the DRS at the moment. But if he loses it, it's going to be a challenge, really big challenge. Ryan and Nitro side by side at turn number 2 and then number 3 and 4. Nitro, oh, that's so close between the two Ferrari engine powers cars. But Nitro is in front. He's not using DRS and nor was Ryan, so we can't quite call who had it then. But that's a nice fight between these two. It's been good to watch them.
Yeah, it was great. Nitro got past Ryan through the DRS in on the strip into Plaza. And then I think Ryan had a better run out of Plaza down towards the top golf corner at the last corner. Managed to get down the inside, but just couldn't quite complete the move through Harbour.
Definitely the case. So, Ryan running in 5th place. Now, at this point of the race, Jordan, those medium tyres, they're going to be struggling a little bit, aren't they? You know, they will still have performance left in them, but the raw speed of, well, as I say, the raw speed of Merck blasts them on back past MDJ for the race victory, or rather the race lead. But those mediums are going to be struggling a little bit, aren't they?
They will and they won't. I tend to find it was about 13 laps on them as Ryan gets back past Nitrogash. 13 laps was about when they started for me to start going a little bit off. And then when they have had a couple of laps of safety cars, so we've got a yellow flag.
Nitro got it wrong, yeah. Nitro tried to overtake Ryan. And I think we've cursed him because he was running so well and he went for a move up the inside and it didn't work and he went off the road, didn't break anything. So the Ferrari carries on. Cameron's in the pits and he's gone for the hard tyre and a new front wing as well. So that's why it's a little bit earlier than what we would have expected.
I'd say that's about right to go on the hards. 12 laps on the mediums, 13 on the hards if you're going to do that sort of strategy. It's about the right time, especially if with Cameron having to take a new front wing, he'll want a bit of extra time on some fresher tyres to try and gain that time back as Sir Spud in the pits now.
So it's just Spud changing those tyres over. Cameron currently 26 and a bit seconds behind the race leaders. He was only 3.5 behind. Ooh, that was a slide out of the corner and rear locking as well, trying to get those tyres up to temperature. He was only 3.5 seconds behind the front two, but that front wing change is going to cost him quite a fair amount. And it's a case of where will he feed out in relation to Ryan later on in the race. I know that Ryan was quite a considerable way behind where Cameron was, but the difference is that front wing change might have just brought him right back with the Alfa Romeo. The front two, though, MDJ just deciding I'm going to sit behind Merckx for a little bit longer.
Yeah, another thing in that Cameron Searle battle is obviously you got to talk about Simon Palmer. He's now back ahead of Cameron by about 5 seconds. And it's about probably 5-6 seconds for the wing change on top of your normal pit stop. So that says to me that Simon, as he goes past nitro gas into Plaza, those fresher tyres for Simon, he was gaining time back on Cameron, enough so to get probably level with him. If it were a normal pit stop.
Yeah, had he have not had a front wing change, these two would be fighting together in terms of Simon and Cameron. But the other thing to note is that Simon's obviously on those medium tyres as Nitro runs a little bit deep into turn one. Still good drive from him. Could Simon be on for a podium? You know, this is not out of the question. There are drivers in front of them that have still got a pit, including Ryan and Joe Hamster. I know the other two at the AlphaTauris have got a pit, but it looks as if they might just be far enough ahead of the Alpine, unless Ryan and Joe go try and take those medium tyres right the way to maybe lap 16, lap 17, you'd probably imagine, Jord. It's looking quite good for Simon. He could be on for it here.
Yeah, and those mediums should go to the end. They're not going to be nice at the end, but they should last to the end. Just about. Like I said, they won't be nice, but they should get to the end on that set.
Yeah, by the time he gets to the end of the race, he'll be 15 laps old. Nitros, yeah,
at the mole.
And that was another corner I mentioned pre-race that is just really difficult to spot your braking zone. He's lost the spot to Cameron and Martin, who's flown on by, and Nitro's time at the front looks to be curtailed unless there is a safety car of some form later on. Don't rule it out, ladies and gentlemen. We're only on lap 15. We've still got 10 to go after this, but this is intriguing now to see whether Nitro, when he does pit, let's see where he'd probably feed back out, I reckon, roughly in front of Phantom, so he'd be out the top 10, but still, it's an encouraging race for Nitro, despite the mistakes, and it is easy to do round Vegas. It's been a nice performance from him today.
Yeah, he's shown some good pace around here. I think the key thing here for everyone is to finish, because obviously with RP in the feature race, everyone scores points. It doesn't matter where you finish. You could, if we had 20 drivers, you could finish 20th and still score at 1 point. So points for everyone as long as you finish the race. So that's a key thing with RP, and also a key thing when you're trying to build a championship challenge for a position. It could be the top 5, could be the top 8. Just finishing races helps your campaign every single time.
It does. Points make prizes, especially in the Realistic Performance League. They've got to get to that finish line so they can get those points. So let's have a look at the gaps. Now, I'm just going to be keeping a close eye on between Simon and Cameron, currently running in 5th and 6th place. The gap is 4.9 between those two. 10 laps to go. Let's see if that changes as we get further into the race. It is looking like it's coming down a little bit, so Simon's got to get a shuffle on if he wants that podium. Joe there in 4th place. I imagine he's going to run those soft tyres, as are the rest of the crew at the front, and that's Merckx in the pits. So MDJ goes on through. He takes the race lead. Merckx, where is he going to feed out? It's going to be quite close with himself and Simon Palmer, has to be said.
Yeah, it's going to be soft tyres for Merck. Soft tyres for the AlphaTauri.
That's Ryan in the pits as well. Joe Hamster's coming into the pits. So we've got Merckx coming out of the pit lane right now. Can Simon gain a little bit of DRS? I'm looking to see where he is, but I think he's too far away. So Simon wasn't quite close enough to try and gain that DRS. I thought he was going to be closer than that, to be honest, but hey ho, that's just how it works out so far. But it does promote a couple of drivers further up the field. Simon in third place. That's where we expect him to be once MDJ pits anyway. Cameron in fourth, Martin fifth, but Ryan in sixth place on the soft tyres and only 1.5 seconds behind Martin. This is going to be a case of when rather than if, isn't it?
Yeah, you have to feel that way, although it depends how Ryan treats those softs, because there's every chance if he treats them badly, they'll be not very nice at the end, and Martin could come back at him. Joe Hamster one to look out for as well.
Yep.
He's a little bit behind ARL, but again, he is on the soft compound tyre. And we saw on Monday what that sort of difference makes. You do start gaining a lot of time when you're on those fresh soft tyres.
Yeah, they're very rapid around here. The first 3 laps are vital, though, for them to work. We've been following Ryan because, look at this, we're on board with the Alfa Romeo, and that is easy as you like. MDJ in the pits as Ryan moves into 5th position. So MDJ will certainly go for the soft tyre, of course he will. He's just pulling into his pit box now, and Merckx is going to be in the lead, and he'll probably have a bit of an advantage over his AlphaTauri sparring partner. There's MDJ now trundling out of the pit lane. He gets going again, but Simon is right with him, and that's important for Simon's fight with Cameron. If he can stay with the AlphaTauri, just even for a lap, he might just give himself a bit more breathing room because Cameron is pulling that gap down.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can stick with some DRS, the key though is not to fight too hard with MDJ, because Simon will have to realise that MDJ will be a lot quicker than him at this stage of the race. So he just needs to not fight with him, but kind of use him for a bit of towing purpose, although he's now dropping outside that 1 second.
He just as you were saying that, he ran deep into turn number 7 there, and that's just put him offline. So he got a brief blast of the DRS between turn 4 and 5, but that was the best of that for him. So he's going to have to really work on keeping that gap to Cameron. But the problem is that it keeps coming down. That hard tyre, proven at this late stage of race, just seems to be working a little bit better at holding its performance. Naturally, it will do because it's the harder tyre anyway. The drop-off is less severe compared to those that are on the mediums. Ryan running in 5th place. He's got about 4 seconds to make up on Cameron, which is not impossible. So let's not rule out Ryan for a podium. It's a bit of a tall order, but certainly not improbable if he can get within a second of Cameron before Cameron gets within a second of Simon. That's Joe up to 7th. Breezy pass. George said to watch out for him earlier, and that's exactly what he's done. The number 13 goes past ARL. He's got 3.5 seconds to make up on SFR Martin on the hards.
Yeah, he does have that 3-second penalty though, which could end up getting removed. It depends how he got it, whether that was a third warning or a straight cut penalty. So it'll be interesting to see how that one pans out for Joe. But everyone kind of just in that little sort of spread out segment as we get towards the end of this race, just waiting for those tyre differences to kick in.
I think it'll certainly start to close up a little bit more towards the end of the race. You can see that Cameron were riding on board with him. Those hard tyres will be... Ooh, nice slide out of the complex there. But Cameron's tyres are going to be really working all the way to the end of the race. Simon's, we expect in 5 laps time probably, they're going to probably go off the edge. So this fight is going to become even more pronounced between the two. Big snap of oversteer from Cameron. That was well held. How important was that? Big snap for Ryan in the background. Difference is he's got the soft, he can put the power down, but Cam, they're losing the back end. And this is the thing, ladies and gentlemen. What you're watching right now is a display of drivers. Whilst there's gaps between everybody, although less so between Joe and Martin, because that's going to change in roughly a second time. Yeah, there we go, Joe into 6th. They're all pushing flat out because they can't afford at this point in the race to start being a little bit lazy. That's where mistakes creep in. That's where people start having incidents. And if that happens and Cam has another moment like that, he might not get away with it in the same way he just did. So drivers got to be switched on and focused.
Yeah, and the other thing to bear in mind as well with this late in the race is I do know the way that the tyre works with the walls is different to previous games. If you do clip the wall, it does add additional wear, and normally quite a lot of additional wear as well, as Martin comes in the pits at this late stage for, I'm guessing, a new set of softs to go fast at the end.
Yeah, he's going for fastest lap of the race. He was dropping down the order, was Martin, so he's got the soft tyres on. He'll probably come out in front of Nitro. And he's going to be a couple of seconds behind Kent, so something for him to go and chase after in these last 6 laps of the race. And Cameron, though, look at that gap. That's now a second, less than a second. And that, we're very close between the two. And that might just cost Ryan in the long run here, because Ryan was catching these two, but Cameron with the DRS, they can just pull away from Ryan in the straights.
Yeah, although if Ryan can make up enough time through the corners, he can, to a degree, negate this disadvantage, especially on those soft tyres, as long as they still have the grip. Here comes Cameron, though, 215 miles an hour, 216, as he goes past the Alpine and into Plaza for the 19th time in this race.
So Simon's heart will be plunging to his boots, but he needs to just remember, keep up with Cameron. Use these tyres for a couple of laps, save a little bit of battery maybe, and he might just be able to take the fight back to him. He's still got good tyres at this point in the race. They're not the best in the world, but they're still decent enough for him to fight back for this podium that he's been desperately hunting for since his year-long break from league racing. But Cameron's looking mightily quick on those hard tyres. I'm really impressed with his pace in that McLaren.
Yeah, obviously it's been a bit of a change, as we say, for Cameron being now on the controls. Owen gets past her Spud down the strip. Yeah, it's been a bit of a change for Cameron in terms of going onto the controller, and as you can imagine, RP, that then affects your pace, which then can affect your car allocation. And obviously he kind of had a few different cars as his pace gradually comes, so it'll be interesting to see if he can keep hold of this pace for future tracks, or whether this is maybe a track specific one where maybe he's just done that a little bit more practice than most people.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and we'll see whether Cameron can ensure that his...
And Martin's on the back of Kent.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Martin is right there, and that's the difference between 11 lap old hards and brand new set of softs. Martin has got so much more grip at this point, it's almost a foregone conclusion. MDJ's closed the gap down to Merck in the meantime. The gap's 2.4 seconds. Want to keep an eye out for everybody who's watching, see if that gap comes down. But Martin will just take it nice and steady and then wait for his chance, like now. Has he done that a bit too early? I think he might have been fine, to be honest. Let's just watch the rear. Yes, he was fine. So Martin gets the rear wing flap open. Kent will just follow in the slipstream. He's run out of battery though, as Kent, but his McLaren is mightily quick in a straight line to even match the Williams in front. And then they break down towards turn 14, down to second for the McLaren, up through the gears, trying to tame the wheel spin a little bit by short shifting. But that is the Williams up to 8th. The two Williamses and the two AlphaTauris on track together. Might not be teammates, but still good to see there's a bit of form running between the drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good. You know, the first thing you get compared to really is the person that's in the same vehicle as you. Obviously, in the equal performance, that's everyone, because everyone's technically got the same car. But in the RP, obviously, you do have that difference. So it's good when even if you're losing it because you're behind that opponent. If you're only one place behind them, you know you've still done all right.
Lap 21 here at Vegas, and the gaps are spreading just a little bit. Kent picks up a time penalty, which will put him in the clutches of Nitro Gash, actually, because Nitro's on a new set of soft tyres and he's hunting him down. So Nitro, after his mid-race foibles, looks to be just bringing himself back into contention, maybe for a 9th place, which would be a good haul of points for the Ferrari driver. I'm sure he'll be happy with that. There we've got a yellow flag, so Spud's out.
At the
And it's a safety car. Wow, late drama. Where has he dropped? That is a peculiar place to have lost it.
It's not. He's not the first person to drop it
No.
on that corner. I'm afraid to say our good friend Roddo, he spun it at that corner on Tuesday. He didn't on that occasion. He didn't retire. He only had front wing damage. But yeah, not the first person to drop it at the sphere section.
Now everyone is going to bolt on for soft tyres. I was just about to say Ryan had pitted. He caught the safety car line perfectly. But the relief for Merckx and everybody in the top 4 is that the safety car let them go. I think Merckx and MDJ actually were clear of it, so they can carry on. And they get to do another lap. But we're going to have a 1-lap shootout here, I reckon. Place your bets.
I'd like to think we'd be... We're on lap 22. I think potentially we may only get 1 lap of safety car here, because I reckon that's what the game... like random number generator is probably going to give us, is you're going to have 1 lap of safety car no matter where you are. So those people at the back will have to get a bit of a shimmy on, especially if those guys at the front do decide not to pit.
So we're on the strip here. Roll your bets, everybody, because this is the place to do it. A number of drivers have got themselves onto a brand new set of soft compound. Martin must be kicking himself because he would have had a free pit stop. But in any case, he's still going to be on fresh soft tyres, which will be fine to the end of the race. So he's running in 6th. Whether the rest of the group will catch themselves up, they will do. And that is the front 2 into the pit lane. Of course, you're going to expect Cameron to join them. Here he comes down the straight and into the pits goes the McLaren. Simon Palmer is going to pit too. But Ryan seems to just have this knack, Ryan, of being sort of in the right place at the right time. This season is going to be closing the gap right up to everybody, and he's going to get 1 place because Simon, for whatever reason, can't go any quicker. I think Simon's got a glitch here. He's going so slowly. Martin's gone into the pits, and there's going to be a question asked about whether Martin overtook under safety car there, but I'm sure that
in the pit lane, generally speaking, I mean from real life rules, if you're going into the pit lane, it's absolutely fine because you're not on the circuit.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, did he overtake before the start of the pit lane entrance?
It
looked
early,
tight.
the actual white line that defines the sort of pit entry is quite early. So I think he's probably going to be okay on that one.
Now, I don't know what's going on with Simon, but he's dropping time hand over fist to the safety car. Look at that gap just going up and up and up. And that's a 3-car fight for the race lead, because if that gap keeps going up, I'm not sure what's happened to Simon. He's not ghosted
like he's
either.
Still got a delta.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a really, really poor delta as well.
And that is a shame if that's the case, because there'd have been a huge scrap for the race lead amongst 6 or 7 cars. But sadly, for whatever reason, Simon is stuck, and you can see Ryan was trying to get past him. That is such a shame. If it's a glitch that's caught Simon out, that's such a shame. I do hope that, fingers crossed we get another lap of safety car just so that the rest of the group can catch up. And that's answered that question. So there's a fight for 4th and a fight for the lead. All the drivers have made a pit stop. Phantom will not catch them up. I don't think he's got enough time. But I'll ride on board with MDJ. There's 2 laps to the end of this race, and it is a straight shootout between the trio. Interestingly enough, Simon's now picked up his pace, so I'm not sure what's gone on there. That must have been a glitch.
I think as soon as the safety car got called in, that if he was running on a delta, it got lifted. And this could be interesting because they're going to have a hell of a run coming into turn 1. They're going to have to be careful because Merckx hasn't gone yet.
They're right there. So they have closed the pack up. So fair play to Simon. He used all of his experience. Martin's gone backwards. I think he's gone off, actually, under the safety car. And MDJ has been caught out by Merckx. Oh, there's contact between Cameron and MDJ. That was very, very difficult between the two. So they managed to survive. That's the key thing. Simon's going to run deep into turn 1, and Ryan will say, thank you very much, son. I'm going through. Oh, Simon just closing the door on the Mercedes of Joe Hamster, but the front three are trying to pull away. Ryan's in front as well. That's important. Simon defending for his life, but he's going to be so vulnerable to the drivers around him as they approach turn 5. Joe going to the outside line at turn 5. If he holds this move, great overtake from the Mercedes.
Yeah, lovely around the outside of Caesars. Oh, and there's contact between Martin and Simon Palmer. Martin down the inside of the Severe Complex. He's going to get through, and this is the problem of 14 lap old mediums against fresh softs. You are an absolute sitting duck everywhere. Nitric Ash, the next one on the list to have a look at him. Obviously, no DRS for the remainder of the race, meaning the fight up front absolutely equal. Bar the cars, obviously. Ken also looking at the back of Nitro, looking to get back through this field.
Yeah, considering that Kent had no front wing earlier, he's doing all right so far in this race. Now, Nitro's having the recovery drive that he needed to have. We're on board with the Ferrari. He's approaching about 200 plus miles an hour. Down the strip we go. I'm looking at the gaps at the front. Everything looks solid between those three. Currently, there'll be one more lap. But Simon is holding the inside line. You've got Kent trying to find a way through. He's not going to make that free wide. Nitro to the outside at turn 14. It's going to be another move. And sadly for Simon, they make contact. And that might just be the end of his fight in the top 10.
Yeah, further. Simon now overtaken by Owen. But onto the final lap. MDJ right on the back of Merck. He set the fast lap of the race on that last lap. So this is now going to get interesting. You go through Harbour. Onto Koval Lane and down towards Caesars for the final time. No DRS at all. ARL gets past Ken. That's going through Harbour. That's an impressive move side by side round the outside, and they're still fighting out as they head up towards Caesars.
Great fighting between everybody on these last few laps. There's been a lot of action. I'm watching Kent go past ARL. There we go. That's an overtake done, and that's someone in the wall. Someone's just hit the wall hard. I didn't quite see Ginger Tiger's hit the wall, but this is it. We come through the chicane here, the awkward chicane at turn 7. ARL's out of the race. All drama here on the final laps here on the strip, but MDJ is primed and ready. He wants that race victory, and he's going to be in a good place to do it. He gets a nice turn in for the corner. Merck was just a touch wide. The batteries a go. It's Merck leading the way towards the turn 14, the big braking zone. Merck is going to be losing time now. The battery kicks in for MDJ along with the slipstream. They're closing the gap down. Look at the gap between the two of them. He goes to the inside line. The AlphaTauri side by side. A battle of the last late breakers into turn 14. It's a good move from MDJ. He forces Merck out wide, but watch out for Cameron. Cameron's going to get the battery as well. And the slipstream too. Merck's trying to hold on. I don't think Merck's going to hold on for second place. It might even be for first. Here comes Cameron for the race victory. It's Merck who finishes third in the end, but it's MDJ who wins it on the line by 0.04 of a second. What a race.
Yeah, that is a hell of a battle between those three. Fantastic use, and you could see there the importance of ERS around Las Vegas as well. Merck obviously just didn't quite save up enough to fend off those fights. I'm not quite sure what happened to ARL. He was out in the Sphere Complex, but at turn 7, which is slightly unusual. Normally it's turns 8 or 9 that you get caught out. Phantom just crossing the line now in 12th. In control of his car as well, so that is points for him for just finishing.
Wow, everybody take a deep breath. It's MDJ on the final lap at the third to last corner, taking the victory from Cameron. And what a great bit of opportunist racecraft that was from Cameron to get the launch at the end, almost taking the race victory at the line. But it's MDJ who gets another win in his bow this season. In fact, I think that's ARL saying how does that cause damage actually in terms of what's gone on there. But it is an AlphaTauri 1-3, but we don't see Merck at the top step today. It is MDJ instead. So let's run through these final standings shortly, just as the drivers celebrate immensely. Hopefully we'll be able to get some comments from Cameron and from Merck, but MDJ will be happy to join us in the commentary box, as he typically does every week. It seems to be becoming a feature for MDJ. He's been scoring loads of podiums. So looking at the race results, you've got MDJ with the victory by 0.04 of a second. Cameron getting fastest lap on the last lap there. Great bit of racecraft from the McLaren driver. Simon's also joined the party. We'll have a chat with him too. Mercked in third place in the end with Ryan fourth. Martin in fifth place. Nitro running a great result for Nitro in the end to finish sixth place. Really well done to him in the Ferrari. Joe, despite the walls, in seventh with Owen, Kent and Ginger Tiger rounding out the top 10. But all the other drivers who finished, including Simon and Phantom, will get points. ARL is classified thanks to his finish within the 90% rule. So Spud and Atsu are two retirements from this race. Jordan, I think it's final laps go here at Invictus. That was pretty special.
Yeah, it's not the first finish we've seen like that from the RL drivers, and it's fantastic to watch, especially when you've had that late safety car and everyone is on the same tyre compound. It's great to see that sort of racing.
That was
right
great.
at the end.
Absolutely great. We've got a couple of.
We'll get Cameron in as well. I have invited him to the party.
Oh, good. So hopefully we can have a chat with Cam, who finished second. But we are going to cut over to the man who finished in the race victory by 400ths of a second. MDJ, I talk to you every week, but that has got to feel pretty special, that race victory, hasn't it?
It was very special, especially with all the safety cars. I thought my chances were ruined since the straight line speed of Cameron and Merckx being insanely quick. So I never thought I would be able to overtake Merckx on the straight, but I did it somehow. So that was very special for me.
Yeah, it was a really good fight between yourselves. And what was your tactics going into those last few laps? Were you planning to do it on the final lap, or were you thinking maybe somewhere else on circuit?
Well, I knew I had to save some ERS, so I tried to stay near Merckx, and then on the last lap, I used like half of my battery to get on the back of Merckx, so I could use it all on the straights to get past him. And then just before the finish lap, I ran out of ERS, so that was just about a win and just about a second place.
Brilliant results for you today as well in the sprint too, MDJ. Jordan, have you got any questions before I ask one more for MDJ?
Yeah, I was just gonna say here, obviously, congratulations on the win. It's good to see you see someone other than Merckx winning a race in RP. It's good to see. But before that last safety car, obviously you were a couple seconds behind Merckx. You were slowly catching. I was monitoring ERS, and you were using a lot of ERS. At that point, were you thinking you're not going to get, because at that point you were about 1.7 behind him and on similar tyre strategy at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I never thought I would have had Merckx in the first place, since he had the straight line speed, which I didn't have. So the only place where I thought was be able to overtake was in the corners, but even that in Vegas, it's almost impossible to do. So yeah, I never thought this was possible.
Yeah, I mean, well, some good results, and you're in quite a big fight, MDJ, for third place in the championship. I know that we've still got 6 rounds of the season left to go, so it's a bit early to be talking about what's your targets and that. But surely in your mind you must be thinking constructors championship, because you two are running really well at the moment for the team.
I mean, yes. At the moment, we are behind Australia.
Australia, yeah.
We are behind them quite some bit, but if we manage to get some points, get more points, then maybe we will be able to overtake them and win the championship at the end.
Wow, fair enough. In any case, congratulations on that blockbuster finish, and well timed, and the strategy worked out well for you to get that race victory by 400ths of a second. You pat yourself on the back. Well done, mate.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move it over to the man who finished second place, who came oh so close to one of the cheekiest potential race victories we probably would have ever seen in Invictus. Cameron, second place. Tell us about that final lap.
I think it had more to do with the previous lap, actually. Looked like those two dropped a lot of battery. I know Merckx was actually flashing on the final lap. And then out of the final corner on the final lap, MDJ started flashing. I still had about 40% battery left. But yeah, their tangle at the sort of penultimate corner, plus them both being out of battery, gave me the slightest chance of a hope, but a bit too little, too late.
Are you still happy with second place though? Because considering that you were in a really good fight. I thought it was quite a tense fight between yourself and Simon Palmer who's in the chat with us. We'll have a chat with him shortly. But you were in quite a sort of long race fight for third place. And how was that for you? Did you think third was the best you were going to get tonight?
Yeah, really did. I was not expecting the safety car. I think I kind of had it locked down. I was more worried about Ryan on those softs behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously safety car just changed it. Yeah, the antics under the said safety car was quite amusing, but that's all I'm gonna say on that subject.
Jordan, have you got any comments for Cam?
Yeah, congratulations on second. Obviously, it's quite an achievement. I mean, for you, I mean, the biggest question I think most people will probably want to know is obviously you're on the controller at the moment due to obviously your circumstances. But what has changed between the last races and this one? Because we've seen you sort of struggle the last few races, and this one's just suddenly all come together. I mean, did you do anything different, or was it just a case of potentially a lot of practice for Las Vegas to learn it?
Well, there's two things. Firstly, yes, I have put a lot more practice into this week, but I also picked up the cheapest pedal set I could find. I'm not even sure you can call it a set of pedals. And it's just helped not with pace, there's no change in pace, but it's a bit more consistency, helping me keep it out the wall, as it were.
Well, I mean, it is impressive that you've managed to find some El Cheapo pedals to sort of propel bottom gear a bit further into the constructors' championship. In any case, what are you hoping for next week? Singapore, very different type of circuit to what we just had at Vegas. What would you be hoping to be a good result for you?
Finishing. Yeah, no, I do not like Singapore. I don't really like Vegas. I think just my issues with it weren't as bad as everyone else's. Yeah, no, Singapore I've never historically liked, and I doubt I'll like it next week either.
Well, I can understand that one. I can understand that. Let's hope you can get a finish at least, and then aim for something. But well done tonight. Really good result, second place, close to the victory, but to get second after not expecting it is always a welcome result. So well done, Cam. Nice one, mate.
Cheers.
Jord, has Merck put a comment in the chat?
He has. He said sprint went well. He was happy with that. The race was going good and was comfortable until the late safety car, which ruined that sort of strategy for him. And MDJ was quick tonight. Congrats to the podium.
Fantastic. That's good to hear from Merck. Could have been 2 wins on the strut, but sometimes life just plays out that way. I'm also glad to say I can have a chat with Simon, who's joined us in the commentary box. Simon, it was a race that seemed to be going oh so well, and then things just got away from you. What happened? The first question I've got for you is, what happened on the safety car? Did you have a glitch or something?
Where I was going slow?
Yeah.
I was doing that on purpose, to be honest. I was just trying to keep tyre wear down. I knew I could catch the field right at the last minute, so apologies if it peed everyone off, but we all caught them up. I was literally just trying to save a bit of tyre wear. I was covering the brake, just trying to save a bit of tyre wear. keeping the tyres up to temperature. But that last safety car screwed me. I literally missed that pit lane by about 2 seconds. If that was 2 seconds before, I could have dived in for softs. And it come out, and I thought about it. Do I dive? And if I'd have dived in there, I'd have got done for cutting pit entry and all sorts. So I just couldn't do it. And then I knew I was sitting duck. So it screwed it, to be honest. It probably cost her. I mean, I think Cameron had me, to be honest. His pace was unreal. I think it cost me a P4 at the end of the day, but it's just gutting because I was running so well. You know, the strategy was working out so well. Everything was going so well. I was racing well. Congratulations to everyone that finished the race, because I know that it's a bastard around here. But yeah, congratulations to everyone else, and congratulations to the people that had finished ahead of me. And I had some good battles. I had some good battles with Cameron, and all in all, it was a good race. And I feel, even though I dropped massively down, I feel it was a positive going forward. And it was nice to be racing like that again.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've got to be able to take some solace from the performance that you've shown tonight here at Vegas, because you were running right with the pack. You know, you were really competitive this evening, fighting for the podium. You know, okay, Cameron might have won that battle on track before the safety car came out, but that's still a really good display of mental fortitude and good pace improvement from where you've been at this season. I do have another question to ask you, but I'll go to George first and see what George's got to say.
Yeah, obviously, well, on your pace, obviously not quite the result you're looking for, but pace was there. In terms of your strategy, I'd like to know your mediums. Had the safety car not come out, were the mediums still feeling okay at that point? Because obviously, we were discussing maybe like 13, 14 laps is kind of their sort of limit before they really hit that cliff. And because we were potentially wondering if you were going to go for a small sort of two-stop strategy to have lots of pace and grip.
The two-stop was in the back of my mind if a late safety car, which obviously happened, and I missed the pit lane. So that would obviously helped. The mediums I could have taken to the end. Obviously raced on Tuesday, and I realised that, you know, the soft medium is doable around here. It really is. So especially if you got a safety car, which is very likely to happen. But yeah, it's just unfortunate how it panned out, really, to be honest. But I do take positive out of it. You know, I have had a year out, not through my choice. Obviously, I had to take it. But yeah, I think I've come back with a better attitude, better racing. So hopefully it moves forward in the right direction, as I think it is at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I know we've had some chats over everything that's gone on, and you know, in terms of your enforced absence over the past year. And I was saying to Cam, in terms of, you know, next week, Singapore, how that's feeling. But what about the rest of the season for you, Si? What's the target, or is there a target? I mean, you hoping to show some more pace, get some top fives, a podium? What are your thoughts?
To be honest, there isn't a target. You know, I've spent a year out. I haven't raced with these guys for a year.
Yeah.
I don't want to come in and like piss people off. You know, when I had to leave last season, you know, it was justified. You know, I was racing like a flipping idiot. I wasn't picking moments. I was going for stupid moves. I just wasn't racing well at all. Wasn't in the right frame of mind. So that year out, and obviously come back to IRL again. You know, I like IRL. I like racing with everybody. I know I pissed people off last season. And I feel I've come back with a much better, fresher attitude, much lighter attitude. And hopefully that's sort of showing on track. I know there was a few little ding-dongs tonight. But I think that's kind of the nature of the track. I think everybody had a few ding-dongs tonight, to be honest. But, you know, I think all in all, it's a much better it's a much better Simon that's actually racing. So I hope you know that people are glad that I'm kind of back, and you know things are on the up, and it's a better racing experience than what they had with me last season.
I'm sure it is. It does seem to be like, things are moving in the right direction. And this season there's been, steady moves in terms of moving further through the field and showing that competitiveness, which is great to see, Si. But well done today. Performance was really good. Might not be the end results that you would have asked for, considering where you were before the safety car, but something to take away from it at least, isn't it?
Exactly. The safety car screwed it at the end of the day. Had I managed to dive in that pits for a last set of softs, the outcome would have been very different, because obviously I'd have been able to defend or attack or whatever. But it is what it is, and yeah, congratulations to everybody else. Great racing, great to be involved with IRL again and all you lads. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, Si. So that is it then for the racing action this evening. There's been a lot going on circuit tonight round Vegas. 2 different race winners from the sprint and the feature race, but it's been really good on track circuit and a lot of drama in the final few laps that have certainly rolled the dice for a few winners and losers this evening. A big thank you to Grid Finder and Venturi Studios for partnering with us tonight and through the season. It's really good to have them on board. Do check out their respective websites. Jordan, do you have anything to add before we finish up?
No, I mean, apart from if we can have more racing like the last lap on every circuit, we're going to be in for a stellar second half.
Well, we have round 10 next week at Singapore, and then it's break week and the final third of the season after that. You can catch all of this live, of course, on YouTube. 8 o'clock British Standard Time is typically when the race lobby gets started. Not always when it goes into the actual racing, though. But in any case, we'll be here commentating on the action. But for tonight and for this week with Invictus Racing League, it's good night from Jordan.
Good night.
It's good night from me, Jack TM53. And wherever you might be in the big wide world, have a good one. See you next week.